All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Book 2 discussion for the Anne of Green Gables series for Anne of Avonlea tonight. It'll just be me tonight hosting. Emily, unfortunately, could not make it tonight. So we'll just have a small, probably shorter discussion. But if you guys are, I know a few of you are watching the replay back, so please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments afterwards. And I see Lisa's here. Thanks, Lisa, for joining and for letting me know that you're here. Appreciate it. So Lisa, I'm going to need you to need your help tonight with sharing and discussing the book. Hopefully some more people will be able to join live. I know it's been a busy weekend for a lot of Americans for your Thanksgiving. So happy belated Thanksgiving to you guys. We will get started. So for Anne of Avonlea, let me know in the comments right now, live, or later on down below if you're joining later. If this was your first time reading Anne of Avonlea, or if it's a reread, and if it's a reread, how many times have you read it? For me, this is a reread. I think this is my second time reading it. So it's been a few years actually, and there's a lot that I did not remember. So it was nice to dive back in and almost experience it sort of for the first time almost. Lisa says, I read this for the first time in August and had some time to reread it this week. Awesome. That's great. I'm glad that you had some time to refresh your memory. Yeah, so Lisa, let us know that. Let me know what did you give, I guess, your star rating. I usually always give these a 5-star. I think I'm pretty easy to please with these. I found, like I said, I really didn't remember too much about the second book, but I just found it just as cozy and comforting and charming as book 1. So for me, it's a 5-star. What did you rate it as? Either, just recently, or has your rating changed since August maybe? I'm not really sure. Lisa says 4.5 stars. I like the first one a little more. That's fair, I think. Actually, I feel like the first one everyone just likes a little bit more just because it's so, I don't know, so iconic and so familiar and comforting. But the second one I think is still just as great. But they do have a slightly different feel because obviously Anne is older. But 4.5, that's still a wonderful, wonderful rating. So for this specific book, for Anne of Avonlea, we have a lot of new... Yeah, Lisa, you read my mind. This one has a lot of new characters. I was just about to mention them. Yeah, we have a lot of new characters that we're introduced to. And I think personally that they're needed. They really add to the story and the dynamic. And it sort of brings a fresh perspective and fresh blood to the Avonlea village. So speaking of new characters, what are your favorite characters? You can, Lisa, let me know in the comments, and for those watching back, let me know down below. We've got Davy and Dora, the twins that Marilla and Anne adopt. We've got Mr. Harrison, the grumpy new neighbor, along with his expressive and vocal parrot. We've got Paul Irving, the new student that Anne teaches, the kindred spirit. We've also got Miss Lavender, who is a I guess, a spinster, so to speak, of the village, and she lives quietly by herself. But she is also a kindred spirit that Anne meets and loves, and we see also how Miss Lavender and Paul's life become intertwined as well. Lisa says, Davy kills me. I can't help but love him. I also really like Mr. Harrison. Yeah, they say it a lot in the book too, that like even though Dora is the proper one, she listens, she's the good child, everyone still ends up liking Davy more just because he's got such a interesting personality that you can't help but love him, like you said. Because he's really not trying to be bad. He just was never really taught certain things, and he just wants to know everything, and he wants to experience everything, and he sometimes just, gets a little ahead of himself. And I think for me, I really like Davy as a character because I think it really brings that childlikeness and I guess just like the humor and like all of the different like scrapes that Davy falls into. It sort of is what we had with young Anne in book 1, where she's always getting into trouble and she's making mistakes, and I feel like Davy sort of takes that place now in this book of that same character arc where he's adopted by Marilla. He's learning how to be good, sort of. Yeah, Davy's great. And then Mr. Harrison, as you mentioned, Lisa, like Mr. Harrison is great because you're really led to believe for most of the book about like Mr. Harrison is just this grumpy, mean guy, and eventually Anne wins him over because Anne wins everyone over, and then we find out later in the book that like he was married and not was married, he is married, which was a shock to everyone, and that really he just wanted his wife to come back and find him, and he's really excited when she comes back, even though he pretends that he's not. But Mr. Harrison's great. Lisa says, it's like Anne is getting a taste of real medicine. Yes, that's a great way to put it. That Davy is really showing Anne what she was like and really giving her a run for her money. Yeah, definitely. And as for the other characters, anyone have any thoughts, Lisa, about Paul Irving as well? Because Paul is we see Paul as almost like the ideal child that Anne wants to teach, right? He's this kindred spirit. He's so enthusiastic and curious about learning in life, and he's just, I don't know, I feel like when, especially the scenes where him and Anne are talking together, it's like you really start to see that sense of, I guess, just how similar their personalities are and how they talk and how they see the world. I think Paul is definitely a good reflection of that, of how Anne sees the world. Excuse me. Lisa says, I found the school stuff super interesting and teachers' favorites, and also her desire to have all the students like her. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, Paul is definitely like the teacher's favorite for sure, and it is so interesting, like all the school stuff. To be honest, I thought I remembered a lot more school scenes in the book, of a lot more of Anne teaching, but I think that's just from what I remember of the movie. But yeah, we do see how, actually this is one of my questions we can go to, sorry, about how do we like Anne as a teacher? At the beginning of the school year, she's got these very high ideals. She wants to be just like Miss Stacy, like you said, Lisa. She wants everyone to like her, and she's very saddened after the first day when not everyone likes her. And she finds teaching was a lot harder than she expects, especially with a student like Anthony Pye. We thought all of the pies were done with, but of course, a pie comes into the village, one of the cousins, and she's got to teach him, and he is very, very much against Anne, and Anne cannot let that go. But we see Anne continue to win over the students, most of them, and keep trying to be kind to them like Miss Stacy was. But also there's that scene of nothing else will work with Anthony Pye, and Anne has a bad day, and she ends up, I guess, whipping him or hitting him basically once because he was being bad, but really because she was in a bad mood. And it seems that, she's horrified with herself and she can't forgive herself, but for some reason that ends up winning Anthony Pye over because now he respects her. She's pretty good for a girl. But yeah, Anne finds teaching a lot more nuanced and harder than she expected, which I'm sure every teacher, anyone who's worked with kids will understand. Oh, hi, Sock. Thanks for being here. I'm here. I didn't read the book, and then I fell asleep, but I'm here. Well, thank you. I really appreciate you being here, even though you didn't read the book. I'm flying solo today. Emily, unfortunately, could not make it last minute. And Shannon can't be here either in the comments, so we've got a very small group, so it'll be pretty short today, but I really appreciate you being here. We were talking about, obviously, Anne of Avonlea, and as a new teacher, and realizing that it's a lot harder than she thought it would be. Lisa says, I think Anne is a great teacher. I loved the discussion with discipline and that she did lose her cool that one time. Yeah, I definitely, even though she lost her cool, Anne is definitely a fantastic teacher, and actually, and yeah, she does have that, I guess for that time, the modern view about her view on discipline and how everyone's telling her from the beginning, you just gotta whip Anthony Pye, you gotta whip the kids, and she's refusing and refusing. And really, her discussion of discipline is really great. Yeah, I think for me, at least, I remember, for me now, I just recently got hired to supply teach. But yeah, reading about Anne as a teacher, really years and years ago, definitely inspired me for teaching, to want to teach. Hopefully not having a student like Anthony Pye and not and all that, but Sock says, where is she and Gilbert at this point? Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, we should definitely start tracking Anne and Gilbert's relationship throughout the book, because it's a slow burn. So where are they through the book? So by the end of, I believe by the end of book 1, she at least agreed to talk to him and be a friend to Gilbert, which that was a long road in itself, but she finally realized she stopped hating him. So for this, really, they're really just friends throughout. They're very good friends. Gilbert is still wants more from Anne. Gilbert will always want more from Anne, but Anne is she's really determined to just see Gilbert as a friend. So really one of the themes too throughout this, especially more towards the end, they talk about Anne's ideal man, and it's that quintessential perfect man, tall, dark, handsome, this and that. She wants someone who's spouts poetry and is romantic, and really she wants someone that doesn't exist, right? She wants this perfect version, and she doesn't see Gilbert as that perfect version. So for her, he's really just a friend. But Gilbert obviously wants more, for sure. What do you think, Lisa? Did I cover it pretty well? Did I leave anything out? I think that's really this book I feel is really more about just them developing their friendship, um, and seeing that bloom. Of course, the rest of the town expects Anne to be with Gilbert, and I think that expectation is also why Anne is very stubbornly against it, because everyone expects her to be with Gilbert. She's like, no, I will not be with Gilbert. Really just to be contrary. um, Lisa, friendship development 100%. This way, yeah, I found the ending fascinating as she was feeling left behind as the single woman. Yeah, we definitely see that at the end. We're going to jump all over the place tonight, but near the end, we find out that Mrs. Lynde and Rilla are going to be living together because Mrs. Lynde's husband died. And so because of that, Anne gets to go off to college now because Marilla has help. But we also hear that Anne is engaged, sorry, not Anne, Diana. Diana is engaged to Fred Wright. And everyone's starting to move on. Everyone's starting to leave. And yeah, she's lamenting that she's the single woman. But really, if she would just really open her eyes to Gilbert, she would see that she's, he's waiting for her and he's there the whole time. Sock says it's rough when everyone wants a certain pairing. Just ask Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson. Yeah, that's true for sure. Yeah, I'm sure it would be harder when everyone wants it, but like both of the people do not. But in this case, everyone wants it. Gilbert wants it, and just refuses to want it, but not for a good reason, really. She just doesn't want to see Gilbert as more than a friend. Yeah, so let's back up a little bit here too. How has Anne matured and grown up? Right, she's 16 at the beginning of this book. I believe by the end she's 18. She's taught for 2 years in Avonlea. So how has she matured and grown up from the little 11-year-old Anne in book 1? But how is she still the same? How is she still that same character that we know and love? Because I feel like Lucy Maud Montgomery did a very good job of making Anne grow up and mature, but didn't make her feel like a totally different person and character now. She's definitely that same Anne. I feel like for me I think it's at the beginning. It's like one of the first like opening scenes is that Anne is chasing her cow because her cow got into the neighbor's field and the cow's not supposed to be there. And so she's running and she's chasing the cow and she's trying to get out, and Diana's trying to help. And she gets so fed up that she sells the cow on the spot. She's like, good, I'm done with the cow. She finally gets home and realizes she sold the wrong cow. She sold her neighbor's cow by accident. And it's this whole thing. And I just feel like it shows how Anne is still going to get into scrapes and trouble. And she's still going to get into things even when she tries not to, even when she's grown up. She's still that same Anne that we love. Sock says, what year is this? Like what year the book was written? That is a good question. Let me double check. Mine says the earliest was 1909 is when Anne of Avonlea was written. So yeah, all of these really take place the early 20th century, the early 1900s as well. So I'm pretty sure this is supposed to take place like contemporarily for when it was written. So it's supposed to be in the early 1900s. Not to get ahead of ourselves, because I know one of the very like near the end of the series, the last book, we get into World War I of 1914. So we're definitely in still that beginning 1900s era. Also, does Lucy and Montgomery incorporate anything specific with what's happening in the world in these books? Oh, okay. So not so much with book 2, but like I said, the very end of the series does incorporate and talk about World War One. It definitely becomes a big plot point for one of the books. So she does incorporate, but not too heavily about too many world events. Because the thing too is that with Avonlea is a tiny little country town on the tiny little island, so they like news and everything is still very isolating for them. So it will take a really long time for them to hear about news. So it's got to be really major, like the war, to really impact the community. So I hope that helps. Lisa says she feels older, but somehow gets into situations like the Jers go. Yeah, right? It's just, she is. She's growing up, and she is a lot more quiet and thoughtful, but like she just can't help it. It's just who she is. She gets into scrapes. When does it take place? Yeah, so 1909 is when this was written, so it's supposed to be contemporary for that time. In her defense, most cows do look alike. That's what she says. That's her defense. She was like, how was I supposed to know which cow? She just assumed, right? Because her cows always get in the wrong spot. Lisa says, it's more slice of life. Yeah, the books are definitely more slice of life every day. Anne's life and what's happening. Yeah. So the war is really the big like world event plot point that I remember from any of the books. But we know, yeah, I think that's it. You're lucky I didn't sell your jersey sweater. Saki killed me. Yeah. So she eventually has to give the neighbor her cow to make up for it, basically. But it's a great like opening scene because it really shows you like, oh, Anne is still the same Anne that we know and love. But as we see her teach as well, we do see her mature. And we also see at the beginning of the book that the Avonlea youth, so to speak, are taking up the task of trying to improve their town. So they form the Avonlea Village Improvement Society, the AVIS. And so we've got Anne, Gilbert, Diana, Fred, a few of the other girls and guys from before that were classmates. I think Moody, not Josie, but I forgot. But some of the other girls, they're all on their committees, and they try to convince the adults in the community to make the place look nicer. Let's paint the hall, put some flowers in, tear down the old barn. And at first, everyone is very, very pessimistic, very against it. And Sock says, wow, Anne is part of AVIS. The fix is in. They won't be running any cattle rustlers out of town, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. So they try and fix the town, and they succeed a little bit at the beginning, and then they run a fundraiser, and they raise all this money to paint. I believe it's the town hall, I think. And it comes out that no one really checked on the person they hired to paint it, and it ends up being the wrong color. It's this horrible color that everyone in the town is embarrassed by and aghast, and I think that sort of kills their society because everyone's like, we'll never live this down. But they try. Lisa says, it feels like this is such an Anne thing to be involved in with their optimistic view of the world. Yeah, definitely. Like, even one of the scenes, um, they have to go talk to someone to ask them for money, and everyone's like, oh, like, send Anne, like, they're never gonna give anyone money. Like, Anne's the best one we got to try and convince them. Because, yeah, she's so optimistic, and she, if anyone can do it, Anne can do it. And if she can't do it, no one can. Why, oh, why did we hire colorblind friend? Yeah, it's like something happened along the way. Someone got the wrong color paint. He's like, no one told me what color it was. I just painted. And yeah, so it's definitely a fun moment throughout. Yeah, oh, and then we have, going back to the characters as well, we also have Miss Lavender, who becomes quite a big character for the later half of the book. So Anne and Diana are walking somewhere, and they end up taking a wrong turn on the road, but it ends up leading them to Miss Lavender, who lives in this little cottage by herself with a young girl who's like her maid, I guess, her helper. And they stumble across her, and they strike up a friendship. Miss Lavender is a kindred spirit, as Anne says. She's been a spinster, but she's so full of life, and she likes being just like happy and on her own, and like the rest of society in the town can't understand that, like, if you're an older woman and you're not married, you're supposed to be a certain way, and Miss Lavender is not that, and she doesn't want to be like that, and she enjoys being by herself, but she does get lonely. And we see Anne and Diana, especially Anne, go to see her more and more often, and we eventually find out that Miss Lavender used to be engaged to Paul Irving's father, Stephen Irving, and they had a fight, and they broke off their engagements, and that was that, and she never married. Lisa says, she was so excited to talk with them and invited them to tea that I was surprised she was alone and on her own. Yeah, like, she is. She's so excited to see them, to see people, and that you really get the sense that I think that, like, even though she says she's good on her own and she enjoys it, as she starts hanging out with Anne and Diana and Paul, and you really see that, like, I think she starts to realize too that no, she was getting lonely. She did need other people to talk to, and never going to visit others. Yeah, like, she doesn't go to visit anyone. Even Marilla says, oh, like, how is she? I haven't seen her in 15 years or so. She doesn't really go to see others, and no one really came to see her, and it was almost like she was forgotten. But we see her really come alive with Anne and with Paul, and especially after we find out the backstory, and that she used to be engaged to Paul Irving's father, and then so eventually, she works up the courage to meet Paul Irving, her old fiance's son now, and eventually it becomes this beautiful second chance love story where Paul's dad comes back to town, and he meets Miss Lavender again, and they rekindle their friendship and their romance, and by the end of the book, Paul's dad, Stephen Irving, and Miss Lavender get married, and Paul gets the second mother that he really wanted, someone who understood him, someone who would love him just like his birth mother did. So book 2 definitely ends a lot more happily than book 1, whereas book 1 we had the sudden death of Matthew, and that all the consequences from that. But this one we end, with a lovely wedding. There is still the death of Mrs. Lynde's husband, Thomas. So it's not totally happy, but he passes away, and we see that because he passed away, let's take that off there. Because Thomas Lynde passes away, Rachel now, we find out, has to move. She has to sell the farm. So back then, we find out that they had mortgaged their farm to help one of their sons. And Rachel's a woman. She does not have does not have really as much like legal right. And because they owe the mortgage, they have to sell the farm to pay it off. So we find out, Rachel Lynde goes to live with Marilla so that she can stay in Avonlea. And because of that, Marilla has help, especially with Davy and Dora. And because she has help now, Anne is free to go to Redmond College to pursue her Bachelor of Arts, just like Gilbert is going to do. Gilbert is also going to Redmond College. So that is where we will see both of them in book 3 at college now. I believe in Charlottetown, in the main town on the island. Yeah. So there's quite a lot that happens in book 2, but it is still slice of life and a little bit slow paced. And Lisa says, I was wondering if book 3 was college. Yes. So we might as well talk about book 3. And if there's anything I forgot from book 2, I know we sort of jumped a little bit all over the place, but please let me know, Lisa especially, or if you're watching this back in the comments below, let me know. Let us know what more you wanted to discuss from book 2. So book 3 is Anne of the Island. And Lisa says, I'm excited to see the development there. I haven't read any of the other books yet. Oh, awesome. Okay. Yes. So book 3 is Anne of the Island. So in this one, Anne goes off for 4 years to college. So this book now will cover the 4 years. I believe it covers the 4 years. So it'll be quite a bit of time lapse. So we have her in, I'm pretty sure it's Charlottetown, which is the capital of Prince Edward Island. It's basically the biggest and the only town on the island. So she's there for college. Oh, sorry, my throat. Yeah, so Anne is there for college. This is what book 3 is about. Gilbert is also there for college. So this book in particular will really develop Anne and Gilbert's relationship a lot more. Because now they're at college. It's 4 years. Gilbert keeps trying to hold on and with Anne, but Anne keeps telling him no and no. And so we'll really see their development through this book and how they will come together somehow, some way. Lisa says, I've been there, PEI is so beautiful. It is, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, as you guys know, yeah, my first time being there was this past October, and it was just gorgeous, just lovely. It's just amazing. Yeah, so I guess we will probably finish off there for tonight. Like I said, it's a smaller, quieter group tonight, so I knew this wouldn't take as long, unless, again, if there's anything else anyone wants to discuss about book 2 or questions about book 3, please let me know. For those of you guys watching back, feel free to comment about all your thoughts and what your favorite parts of book 2 were and what you're looking forward to book 3. Yeah, so book 3, like I said, Anne of the Island. So we'll be reading that for December, and we'll have to figure out a day to meet, because obviously December is going to be crazy for everyone. My hope and thought is the end of the month, in those few days, between Christmas and New Year's, where like hopefully nothing's really happening for anyone. That's my hope, but we will see what happens and see when everyone's free, and when Emily is free as well. Because the reason Emily couldn't be here, she just recently moved and hasn't even gotten internet yet, so she's been going through a lot. So we'll see what works for her and for everyone in December. Lisa says, thanks for doing this on your own. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you very, very much for coming and for discussing this with me, because I really didn't want to do this by myself. Sock says, I hope I don't let book 3 slip through the cracks for the next discussion. Yeah, well, thank you, Sock, again, for coming, even though you haven't read these books or anything. I really appreciate your support and you being here. And I mean, of course, feel free to read them if you want. They're just nice, cozy reads. Yeah. So, wow, I forgot to change to my main channel. Oh, that's okay. We know who you are, right? But yeah. All right. Well, we'll finish off there. Thanks, Lisa and Sock, for coming. Thank you to those of you guys watching back on the replay, and I hope everyone enjoyed book 2 and you're looking forward to reading book 3, Anne of the Island, in December. And like I said, we will figure out when our discussion will be, hopefully at some point in the end of the month after things have calmed down for everyone with Christmas. But Sock says, thanks, Megan. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Sock. Lisa, have a great night. Have a great night too. Nice to see you, Lisa. Oh, good. All right. Well, we'll end it there. Bye, everyone. Have a great night, ladies. Bye.